Have you ever stopped to think about what really happens when Laravel compiles blade templates? What if you could build your own blade compilers from scratch? Most developers know how to write blade templates, but very few understand how Laravel compiles them under the hood. If you have ever asked yourself, how does directives actually turn into raw PHP? Why is Blade so much faster than traditional PHP views? Can I customize Blade to fit my own framework? Then this episode is for you. We are building a custom Blade template compiler, just like a Laravel, so you can truly understand how PHP compilers work. By the end of this video, you will not just be a Laravel user, you will think like a framework creator. Let's begin. So in the last video, we have integrated routing with controllers and actions, and today we will be working with custom PHP compiler. But before that, let's do a little bit configuration work. So our project is up and running. This is our home page. So I'm going to integrating configuration for base URL so that we can access our base directory anywhere in the project. Let's create a file called config.php. This is an PHP file, and return an array. This should return an array. So I'm gonna put a key associative array base URL, base directory, the file base directory. Okay, so save it, and now let's create a helper function. Okay, if function doesn't exist, called base URL, then we will create a function base URL. Okay, so base URL will take an string called path. It's nullable. Okay, let's include our config file to get our base URL config. So I'm gonna require this instead of include, require base directory concatenate with config file. Okay, so what we're going to demonstrate, so let's printer this variable config, printer, call the config variable. This is must be array. So now let's call the function base URL. Okay, so I wanna just verify our output. Okay, exit our statement after printing the output, give it refresh. Yeah, so we got an array with associative variable base URL. Okay, so if we printer this echo p, so if we format this, then we can see, yeah, this is format. And next time we will be adding a step by step called resource URL called dir. Okay, resources views. Okay, something like that. So if we refresh it, it will gonna add the another key. So this is an associative array, key value appears. So now no need our resource URL, we'll remove this one, and step by step we will configure this. So going to helper function, now it's working. So to verify this, I'm gonna pass our views home.php. okay, so this is our view directory, php traditional view. So we pass this, and I am removing the printer and echo statement and exit statement. Okay, so let's concatenate our parameter path with our config base URL. So return config base URL. Okay, concatenate with path. So now echo this, echo my changes, exit here. So I have pass and parameter file directory. So refresh it. Yeah, I got my file with our base directory. So the benefit of the base directory, so we can access our file anywhere in the project. It doesn't matter you are in the where you have in the project directory, and you will get the file access. So let's remove this and refresh. Yeah, our config file is successfully integrated. Today's goal is creating custom PHP blade template compiler. So to create this, make some library function, library classes. So I'm creating a directory called library. Inside library we will create view directory, so that later we can add multiple classes. So and then create view class, view.php file, php class view. Okay, let's define a function, define constructed function, public function construct. It will receive an string called path, then it may null. Okay, so our string is nullable, and let's define private string this path. Okay, now I'm gonna initialize this of this base path equal paths, the null collapsing operator. If path exists, it will assign into the base path private property, and if not exist, it will assign the helper function call base URL. Okay, so it will assign our variable. So now our string is nullable, and then so we have created a constructor function. When we create an object or instantiate our view class, then we can initialize our base path. So we will work with our base path. Let's create another public function called render. Okay, so our render function, so what we're gonna doing here, we're gonna actually doing the same thing exactly what inside our view helper function. Okay, we have created in our previous video. This is view file, view function. So what view function does, it does when inside the controller we render our view, the PHP traditional view file inside home.view. This is HTML file. So from helper function, this view is called by the controller function. So we have to do a lot of things, lot of these changes. That's why we're gonna removing this and moving into our render function. So I'm going to just rename this into dir inside path and rename this into params. Okay, so I'm just going to creating our view instantiate view equal new view. So our string, no need to pass our string, so we keep this empty. Okay, so return view render. Okay, so we will pass our path and parameters. So if we return, so it's not work, unquoted view not found. Okay, so view class not found because we have to include our view class recur once library views. So let's rename this. This is camel, make it lowercase. Okay, library views view.php. So we've been integrated our views. So let's refresh. Yeah, there is no output. Reason we haven't returned our output yet. Jump into the render file to accept string path, and our parameter is array. Okay, now let's do the same thing what we have keep put in our view file. So let's extract params and include our path. So we're gonna including this base path and our path. So dot php, let's include our php. So this is already included and refresh. Yeah, So our output is working. Fantastic. So our view class working. So our render function is working. So let's introduce a little bit about PHP output buffering. Okay, I'm going to the home.php. This is view HTML page. Okay, type here PHP, do the PHP tag and type in a function ob start. This is PHP built-in function. There is two type of function, user defined function and built-in function. Copy this, do the another function and define a variable called content ob get clean. Okay, so I have defined two function. So not defined, called two function ob start and object get clean. Okay, this is our home.php traditional PHP view file. Okay, come back to the browser, let's refresh, and yeah, here it is. So there is no output because our output buffering is initial is here. So output buffering is something like the DOM manipulation. As you can see on the JavaScript, we can manipulate our DOM. So object get clean, return our string and store inside our memory. So our content variable contains our string, the entire string of the HTML file. So if we echo this, echo content, let's come back to the browser, refresh. Yeah, we got our output. So what the benefit of this output buffering? So what is the purpose of why we are using the output buffering? You can, we can store our string inside our variable and memory. So it will allow us to modify our string. Okay, before sending to the browser, we can manipulate, modify our string, our HTML file. So that's why we are using the PHP output buffering. We can manipulate, we can render blade file, template, modify our string. So that's why we are using PHP output buffering. This is super powerful feature, PHP feature. The alternative things we can use file gets content. So we gonna demonstrate using object buffering. So remove this. So we will do the same thing. Okay, so ob start and let's define a variable called content equal ob get clean. Okay, now give it refresh, no output, come back to the editor and return content. Okay, now come back to the browser, give it refresh, press Ctrl R in the keyboard shortcut. Okay, so our output is rendering in our browser. So how it's working, let's demonstrate this. So I'm defining a render function. This is returning in string. Sometimes it may return a null string, null. Okay, let's refresh. So our render function, render method called by our helper function view. This is also returning string. So our view function called from our controller view. So it will also returning an string. Okay, our view template returning PHP view as a string. So our view function returning content and view function called by index. Okay, our index also called by our router. Here it is, call user fun. Okay, because our view function integrated with index function integrated with our routes. So our routes are demonstrating from our routes.php and call user fun here. So we are calling the callback function. So this is the signing method, so that's why it's working under the hood. Now we are going to gauge our PHP base file path. Okay, so another problem is here. So when user will pass home.php file, okay, or it may pass home.blade.php file. So to gauge our file path, to check so which type of file is exist, let's resolve our path. Let me show an example. Rename this home. So in the Laravel, the blade file is a blade file included .blade.php extension. So this is our blade file, and post.php is our traditional PHP view, and this is our blade file. Okay, so we will integrate our string, copy this. So our title will something like that. It's called PHP blade echo statement. Okay, title. So it will work something like this. Refresh is now working. So home.php is failed to open string because we have renamed this, already renamed our function. Now remove the blade.php. and refresh. Yeah, this is not working, our PHP echo statement. Okay, to make it work, let's first guess our PHP blade file. Okay, let's rename this blade.php. So let's jump into our view, and I'm going to create a function, private function resolve file path. Okay, so it will also receive our file path, and it will return our path string or null. Okay, here I'm going to call this, define a variable called file, and call our new function resolve file path, and pass the path parameter. Okay, exit. So this is, we have defined type. Now for this time, remove this type so that we can work without any type hinting error. So no output. Refresh. Now our path may contain .php extension. So our path may contain .blade, and our path may contain .blade.php. Okay, so this is the possible way, that there is 3 possible way our path may contain. So why this? So we wanna provide the flexible to the user, and so that user can, if user can by mistake type the home.php, it must work. Home.blade, it must be work, it should work .php. So to provide this type of flexibility to the user, so we have to resolve our path. So I'm gonna working this way. Sorry, let's define a variable clean path. Okay, I'm going to clean our path. String replace. So string replace, we will replace our this extension by empty. Okay, and so our subject is path. Fine, right? So echo our path, clean path, give it refresh. So this is home, right? So I'm going to zoom in. If we pass from the controller home.php, give it refresh, it will send the same things. And if we pass the home.blade.php, return, give it refresh, the same. So if we remove this one, if we not cleaning our path, if we not clean our path, echo just path, and return to the browser, refresh. So we got our full path. So we have clean our path, and so there is 2 possibilities of file extension. One is blade file, and another is PHP traditional PHP file. Okay, sorry, let's define variable blade file QL. This base path with clean path. Okay, copy this. This is clean path dot blade dot php. This is our PHP file. Okay, do the same thing and rename the variable called PHP file. This is not blade file, so removing the .blade extension, I will check whether the blade file exists or not. So first we will check it is blade file or not. So home is blade file. If not, it will return the PHP file. Okay, so no file is exist, we will return the null. So return, so I'm going to function metcmass true. So file exists, blade file, so return blade file directory. Okay, exist, if PHP file exists, so it will return only PHP file. So default return null. So define the return type string or null. Let's echo our file, return zoom out. Okay, we got our full file directory. It is home.blade.php file. So this is our blade file. If we rename our file name, just remove the blade extension, enter, and give it refresh. Yeah, we got our file without our blade extension. And if we type our unknown file that doesn't exist inside our view directory called dashboard.php, this file doesn't exist in my view directory, right? You can see inside my view directory, and give it refresh, return null. Let's undo, just keep home.home and refresh. Yeah, we get our full file path directory. So now, so it's working fine, great. And if file doesn't exist, now I'm going to throw an exception. Okay, remove the echo. If the undefined directory given by user or file name that doesn't exist or view that doesn't exist, I will throw an exception. So call if not file, so throw new runtime exception. So view file does not exist, call path. Okay, so refresh now output and send unknown file, call home sss. I'm rename this, refresh. Yeah, we got view file doesn't exist, home sss. Okay, so this file doesn't exist, control P. Okay, no missing result. So now undo this, refresh. Yeah, so we got our file, and before sending output we have return, we have exit our execution here. To remove this statement, exit statement, and inside include, so just replace it by file and come back to the browser, give it refresh. Yeah, good, nice. So it's working. Let's include our blade echo statement. So PHP blade statement, something looks like as you can see here, inside our curly braces, double curly braces, we can title. Okay, so give it refresh. Yeah, so you can see this is our blade syntax, blade echo statement. So it's not working. So now we're going to include these things. So how PHP function works? So let's start. Going to the view and let's define a function called apply variable. Okay, so we will apply our variable inside, so over the content. Okay, so let's define a private function apply variable. Okay, it receive our content, so and parameters. So let's call parameters content equal this apply variable content and params. Okay, so go to the apply variable, let's extract our parameter params. Now refresh, no work. So I'm going to return our content, give it refresh. So it's working, our function is defined successfully. So I'm going to define this. So I'm going to using regular expression called regex. So why I am using regex? I want to grab this pattern. Okay, our curly braces. So all type of variables looks like this pattern. Okay, I will grab this to make it. So let's go to the regex 101, copy our view, Control S, copy, paste here, and then apply our pattern. So if you apply this pattern, you can see, so our targeted blade echoing pattern placeholder is selected. If you did this multiple times anywhere in the blade file, so something like that, call variable name, close this. Yeah, so you can see our pattern is selected. Okay, so we have to select this pattern. We inside curly braces, our variable will define inside curly braces. So let's call this preg mass all. So let's define our pattern paste our pattern, and our subject content, and our variable will define. I wanna name this message. Now let's print our output, print our message variable. Tag match this. So this is my pattern to match our echo statement and subject our content, and find this pattern from our content. This is HTML string, and keep the message, keep our all message inside our message dot variable. So I can access the message variable and come back to the browser, refresh. Here you can see associative array. So to format, I'm not going to format PHP. This is HTML tag. Refresh. Here it is. You can see. So there is two value of the array. First value contains our placeholder, including curly braces title. So you can see inside our home.blade.php. Here it is. And the second value of array, this also array, it will concern our variable name. Okay, so this is our variable name. So it may be multiple times. So if we pass our multiple array, let's call users, and I'm define an object. Okay, so users has name Kakan Chandra, email kakun@example.com, and if you call this from let, let's copy user email and do the multiple thing username. Give it refresh, and here it is. So inside 0 index it contains placeholders, and inside index number 1 it contains our variables. Nice thing, right? So I'm going to demonstrate this. So you can see, so nice match with our indexing. This index is 0. This is our placeholder. Here it is also inside our 0. And username, it's inside the placeholder inside index 1. Variable name inside our index 1. Okay. So I am on to, this is an array, multi-dimensional array. I want to grab this second index. Okay. First index start 0 and second index in 1. Let's type a for each function. For each message second index. Okay, as index variable. Okay, so let's echo this variable, echo variable, add an break statement, refresh. Yeah, on the very left side you can see title, username, email. Okay, as we added inside our bullet file. Nice, right? So this is our variable. Let's grab our placeholder. Okay, message says 0 inside 0 and index. So we'll grab our placeholder. If echo and return. So our placeholder will change only the curly braces. We'll start with curly braces inside. The variable will show inside curly braces. Okay, this is, I just refresh and you can see our placeholder. There is 3 placeholder. So we define a placeholder and let's evaluate our variable. Okay, let's eval return evaluate variable. Refresh, syntax error. You know the semicolon must be included at the very end of the every statement. Refresh. Okay, so you have already evaluated our variable. Now I wanna replace with this pattern. So our placeholder, this is our pattern. Before that, define a variable called value. So replace placeholder using value and our content or subject it content. So let's refresh jump into the browser, refresh controller. That's good. I'm removing our previous PHP traditional echo statement. Okay, so if you remove this PHP and echo, so this is same thing. Okay, so I am just removing that PHP traditional echo statement and give it refresh. Yeah, here it is. Okay, we have compiled our variable. Let's write some command learn var string to store initialize base path, and for resolve path param is string. It will pass view file path and return is string and null or null. So you can define the comment. So if you comment, write some multi-line comment. This method will render PHP view file as a string. Okay, and there is two parameter. One thing is string and array, and it will return both string and null. Okay, and it will throw runtime exception. Okay, nice. Multi-line comment will help to understand clearly. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon, so whenever I upload my video you will get the notification. Thank you.